Hey guys, welcome to the Liberal Hive Mind, a channel solely focused on exposing the abundant hypocrisy of the left. Well, here we go again with Kamala Harris. If you spent any time on Twitter, or if you've taken a look at Kamala Harris's Twitter feed as of late, she's essentially LARPing as an Al Sharpton type activist recently. I guess that's her shtick to play into that one-dimensional identity politics Democrat archetype. There's clearly been a very concerted effort to rebrand Kamala Harris. That's how it is with these phony empty suit politicians. They aren't real people, they're crafted images. We all know that with Kamala Harris at the start of assuming her role as vice president, it hasn't exactly gone well for her. At one point, she might even still be, based on approval rating indexes, the least popular vice president in American history. Well, her team has been working overtime to cater a new image, but even beyond that, she's been making very select few appearances and focusing on very specific topics. They've been very careful with her, attempting to slowly rebuild trust and rebuild her image in the public eye. But the problem is, Kamala has one problem. It's called Kamala Harris. You know, you can't fix Kamala just like you can't fix stupid. And once again, she's in the news looking like a fool as per usual. This time her attempt to go after Ron DeSantis has severely backfired, as some interesting facts have come to light. Let me show you guys exactly what those facts are. Let's give the backstory. Let's get into the details. We've got some stuff to get into, so let's roll the tape. Alright folks, so you might have seen the faux outrage that Democrats have been peddling. Of course, Kamala Harris is sent to do the dirty work.
Extremists, so-called leaders, for months have dared to ban books. Book bans in this year of our Lord 2023. Extremists here in Florida pass a law, don't say gay, trying to instill fear in our teachers that they should not live their full life and love who they love. And now, on top of all of that, they want to replace history with lies. Middle school students in Florida to be told that enslaved people benefited from slavery. High schoolers may be taught that victims of violence, of massacres, were also perpetrators. I said it yesterday. They insult us in an attempt to gaslight us, and we will not have it.
Now, my apologies, I know that was hard to listen to for two reasons. Firstly, Kamala Harris's nails on a chalkboard manner of speaking, and secondly, that was literally nothing but misinformation. That was nothing but overt propaganda and lies. I don't want to go on a tangent on the whole don't say gay bill freaking nonsense, but apparently Democrats are still pushing that overt lie. But now they have a new one. These extreme Florida Republican so-called leaders, she calls them, are trying to erase history and replace it with lies, teaching children that actually black people benefited from slavery. Now that right there is a calculated Democrat propaganda effort. It's as morally bankrupt and corrupt as you could possibly imagine, because obviously a statement like that is supposed to elicit a certain type of reaction. Oh my god, those terrible Republicans are trying to whitewash history and justify this evil practice. That's the way Democrats are making it seem, but that could literally not be further from the truth. Now, if you have a basic ability to critically think, and if you're tuned into how Democrats play with these false victim narratives, well then you probably instantly understand the nuance the Democrats are specifically and purposefully omitting from the equation here. Here's a little snippet from the Washington Times, an article written, "Another desperately false Kamala Harris attack on Ron DeSantis. Her statement is completely untrue. Here is a link to the Florida History Standards. It is 216 pages, and here is the one sentence that Kamala Harris is using to justify her claim. Instruction includes how slaves develop skills which in some instances could be applied for their personal benefit." So firstly, this is a historical fact that slaves develop certain skills which later on led to either employment or starting of businesses. It's simply just a cold hard fact that's been taught throughout generations. It's not evil and malicious and used in an attempt to justify the practice as I stated earlier. It's simply just a fact of of the matter. And you could see once again how they totally misrepresented it. Kamala Harris and Democrats are framing this narrative saying that the Republican Florida government is mandating that the practice of slavery in a way be justified because those enslaved developed skills that benefited them. They're claiming the context is that slavery benefited people, but what the Florida history guidelines state is that the skills benefited the people. I'd argue that's a pretty clear distinction. And again, it's not meant to be offensive, it's not meant to justify anything, it's simply a statement of fact. And so that's essentially the start of the context. That's how this whole thing started. Kamala Harris doing her typical grift. Most people with a head on their shoulders clearly find this kind of divisive nonsense utterly repulsive. But then it gets even worse for Kamala Harris, as we're now learning that the Democrat left-wing proposed African American Studies curriculum, which was backed by Kamala Harris, literally contains references to the exact same teaching of facts. Look at this headline right over here. AP African American Studies course backed by Kamala Harris contains references to skills obtained through slavery. Let's really put it all into context here, folks. Let's put it all into perspective. AP African American Studies is what was blocked by the Florida government. It's what Democrats were proposing be taught. And even worse, and after it was blocked by Florida Republicans, Democrats were outraged. In fact, the NAACP argued that Florida was, quote, not safe for black people. They issued a travel advisory over the blockage of this curriculum. When that fear-mongering didn't work, I guess they reverted to fear-mongering about the current curriculum over one specific sentence that's literally present in both courses. You cannot make this kind of hypocrisy up. You literally could not be this much of a dishonest, divisive snake if you tried. But this is essentially par for the course with these Democrat grifters. This is what they do. We're not talking about kind-hearted, good people who have the best interest of minority communities in mind. We're talking about selfish, evil grifters who continue to force a wedge in race relations for their own personal image benefit. That's what Kamala Harris is doing here. I mean, it's the typical identity grift. Like I always say, taking advantage of such a sensitive cultural topic, knowing that there's this sort of historical sensitivity and constantly pouring salt in the wound in an attempt to divide and conquer. Kamala Harris, you have been caught. You are a snake of the worst kind. And you know what's even worse? You're never gonna apologize. And of course, we already know that. Just goes to show how terrible these people are. To cause this kind of damage, to push overt misinformation, and then to get caught on such incredible hypocrisy. And when the truth comes out, to double down and keep pushing instead of apologizing. I mean, it's the sign of a terrible person. It's the sign of a politician. Utterly despicable, absolutely awful. That's what I got for you guys on this one, though. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, make sure to leave a like and possibly subscribe. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.